Hey folks, welcome back to our channel Mystery Recap. In today's video, we're gonna recap a movie named Patch Adams, so stick with us till the end. But before we move on to the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell icon for more videos like this one. In 1969, a man named Adams Hunter was seen getting on a bus in his city to go to the closest mental hospital. He did it to restore his soul after several suicide attempts because he felt useless in this world. As soon as he arrived, he was taken to his room. In that room, he was not alone. There is another patient named Rudy. Rudy screamed hysterically as he was about to greet him because he was hallucinating that a squirrel would attack him. Adams called for help in fear, but seeing how the officers behaved made him sad. Rudy was treated very inhumanely. He felt sad again when he told the psychiatrist his discs, but the psychiatrist didn't seem to care. Even the psychiatrist ignored him. He meets patient Arthur. He is a rich scientist who is crazy because his genius defies reason. He initially underestimated Adams' arrival, but when Adams added to his leaky glass, he realized he had been so focused on complicated things that he had never cared about the simple things in front of him. He gave him the nickname Patch, which means patch. He thinks Patch can fix people's problems. Adams couldn't sleep because Rudy was going to the bathroom and he was afraid his hallucinatory squirrel would attack him. He spontaneously invited Rudy to shoot the squirrel until he disappeared. Rudy is happy to use the bathroom in peace. From that point on, Adams saw how his life had turned out. He immediately left the mental hospital the next morning. He promised to be a better doctor than the inhumane ones. 2 years later, he became Patch Adams. He chose Virginia Medical University for medical school on his first day of college. He instinctively likes Karen. He approached Karen immediately after the lecture, but she declined, saying that she wanted to study. It turns out that a man saw it by accident. He is Truman. Truman said he was rejected on classic grounds, knowing they were in the same boat. Adams invited Truman. He told his specific about his crazy doctor dreams and past experiences. Truman's interest in his idea surprised him. Students had a hospital practical exam. Their lecturer described a patient's illness. The patient felt uncomfortable and afraid of the student's questions about her illness. But Adams asked her name and greeted her. Simple things like that make the patient smile afterward. He quietly left his entourage and visited a gloomy pediatric cancer patient without thinking. He immediately entertained them by clowning with his tools. The children instantly forgot the pain. He was happy at the end, but his dean found out about what he did. When it was morning, he asked Dean Walcott. He was warned because only third-year students could interact with patients. He opposed it, but Walcott ordered him to comply because he thinks he will print a doctor. He said Ems was not as smart as him. After a few days, Truman and Karen were his group. He invited Karen to discuss campus medicine when she was serious about studying, which she didn't think was quite right. Karen felt uncomfortable and left. It guilted him. He tried to persuade her, but she was fed up and couldn't understand how Adams could become a doctor if he talked about unimportant things while studying. Despite wall warnings, he visited the hospital daily to comfort the children. He made the kids happy. Their parents and nurses loved him. Semester 1 grades are out. Her grades dissatisfied Karen. Adams' near-perfect score surprised her. She didn't expect the person she thought she knew nothing to be so smart. She approached Adams and offered to help him in the evening. Adams asked Karen and Truman to comfort a hospital patient. The patient was thrilled to realize his dream. Adams spontaneously asked Kennedy. She always played her mother Saddam tea and dreamed of swimming in Saddam's pool. Karen praised Adams after he returned. Adams confessed his love then. Karen didn't reply. Her sweet smile left Adams. Next day, he comforted Bill, a temperamental patient, confidently. She sang for Bill, but he cursed him and always talked about death. Adams fled to comfort the other patients in fear. The patient and parents were comforted, but the dean came and scolded Adams for breaking the rules. Wall says patients shouldn't enter. They need doctors. Adams replied that he visited patients in his spare time as a visitor, not a student. But Wall refused because Adams had to study. Because his friend Adams reported that he had been cheating on the exam without thinking he met the person. His roommate was suspected. he falsely accused Adams. He felt disapproved because he studied hard and won awards outside. He is the son and grandson of a famous doctor, but his grades were always lower, who he considered very unacademic thinking. He couldn't stop thinking about his roommates, but he didn't want to waste time on such an insignificant matter. He left right away. He returned to the hospital. If his dean chastised him, he returned to Bill in an angel costume and recited death poems. This entertained Bill and was the only doctor who got him to talk. Wall announced a seminar for America's top obstetricians. He will appoint one of the most outstanding students to welcome the doctors, and the chosen one is Adams. Pride arrived on seminar day after several days. Walsh boasted that he had prepared their campus hall well, but he was not expecting Adams' giant foot of a woman giving birth. He ordered Adams to face him again, furious. He was furious and expels Adams from college. Adams couldn't do anything, but the chancellor helped him after hearing from patients that Adams had improved their quality of life. Adams could study. He wasn't allowed back to the hospital until the lecture was over. Karen visited Adams' dorm. Adams read her a romantic birthday poem. He promised to finish it later. After that, they talked. Adams was the best man Karen had met. She kissed Adams abruptly. Adams' greatest night. Adams went to the hospital at night to meet Bill, who called him Bill, who was weak. He begged Adams to sing the song he first sang to him, Singing Skies, Resisting Tears. Adams sang as Bill died, then invited Truman over to console him. But in that place, he heard complaints from people who were dissatisfied with the hospital and its complete doctor. This sparked an idea. Then he left them. He told Karen his dream then. He wants a simple, welcoming hospital. 2 years, he took Karen to a hill. He was sure the beautiful place would become his dream hospital. He then took Karen to a nearby hot spring. Truman awaited in the cabin. Arthur, his mental hospital friend, gave him the cottage, which he will use. Clinic without complicated procedures, full of entertainment and free. Former mental hospital patients help. They joyfully renovated the cottage. Karen finally shared her heart at night. She couldn't help but realize that she loved Adams and wanted to be with him forever. If death separated them, she would be a butterfly to help Adams, like her childhood dream. Adams was very moved to hear that. Karen awoke to Adam on her bed. Before finishing, he read his poetry. Truman unexpectedly reported that their clinic had run out of supplies. He immediately joined Truman to identify clinic needs. They were not home yet. Larry, a former patient, called Karen at the clinic. He requested assistance getting home. He wanted a listener. Karen meets. Despite Larry's suspicious morning behavior, he welcomed her. Adams was summoned to see his chancellor, but he wasn't. He was informed that Larry shot his girlfriend Karen. Larry committed suicide. Hearing this, his body collapsed. He couldn't speak. He only glanced at Karen's funeral. He approached Karen's chest after everyone left. He read the poem's final line. He cried at last. He packed quickly from his clinic. He stopped because he believed that he killed Karen. Truman failed to convince him, not just in the clinic. He left college too. His roommate grabbed him. He apologized for his mistakes. He realized that Adams had been treating patients well all along. He asked Adams to help his patient Kennedy, who refused to eat, but he didn't care. He just left. He got to the clinic's hill. His life felt pointless. He committed suicide there. However, he jumped abruptly. Karen would always be there, so he gave up his plan. He then helped Kennedy at the hospital. Kennedy's spaghetti pool dream came true. Kennedy was happy and will never forget this moment. Trouble came unexpectedly. He receives a letter expulsion from college for feeling rejected. He immediately met Wall, who refused to respond because the letter said everything. Adams opened the clinic illegally. Wall said that he made a lot of people, including patients, feel uncomfortable. Adams is furious with Wall's argument. He intends to appeal to the board of doctors. Several days had passed, and finally, the open trial for betting on Adams' fate had begun. He was asked why he founded the clinic. He confidently replied that the medical methods at his college were inhumane because it only emphasizes on the patient's disease and not on the patient. The patients who come to his clinic also become doctors because they care for each other and support each other. That is a real doctor's function. Death will be unavoidable. So is the doctor. What should be done is not only delaying death, but also improving the patient's quality of life. He said he was not afraid of being kicked out of college, and he was not afraid that he wouldn't be able to wear a white coat, but he will still be a doctor forever. For all patients who need the means for a moment, the council fell silent. They asked for time to discuss. However, they were about to leave suddenly. Not long after, the board of doctors entered the room again. The board of doctors declared that the Adams Clinic had not violated the law. They were grateful that he had helped so many people. They also praised his method. They told Wall that he had to learn more about medicine from Adams. Instantly, everyone immediately gave a round of applause to Adams. He never expected that so many people had supported his method all this time. Several months later, he finally graduated from college. From that day on, he was officially declared a doctor. He is ready to serve more patients with all his heart. So guys, that's it for today. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more movie recaps. Also, comment your favorite movie name you would like to get an explanation on. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out these videos.